So here's some information about Saber that I didn't realize while making the last part. Also know that this is secondhand information, so this might not be true in the slightest, but apparently Saber's head writer, Takuro Fukuda, would frequently just not show up for production, leaving Keiichi Kasagawa and Nobuhiro Mori in charge to come up with stories for plot points. Then, when Fukuda came back, he would contradict things that Hasegawa and Mori set up, just to make things his way. This is why there were so many inconsistencies in Saber's writing, where they go from Rintaro actually earning Fantastic Lion to Kento being given Golden Allegina by the plot. The same thing happened with Kamen to Ghost, but I have not seen it at the time of writing the script, so I have nothing to compare this to. So now we're finally getting to more Saber, and yeah, by that reaction you can tell that I'm very excited for this. The last arc was, let's just say, not handled the best. I definitely wouldn't say it's the worst I've ever seen of Kamen Rider, especially when there's stuff like Decade that exists. It has good moments, but failed from COVID restrictions, the higher-ups pushing the writers to sell more toys, and the aforementioned situation with Fukuda changing plot points set by other people just to make them how he wanted them. Putting all these together just made for a really messy show. Thankfully, the show does get better once the other writers get the chance to do their own thing with the show. And you want to know how infrequent Fukuda actually showed up? Being the head writer of Saber, starting where we are now, which is a third of the way through, by the way, he wrote 8 more episodes. That's half of what we covered in the last part, meaning he wrote, counting the episodes he wrote in the first part, 1/4 of the show, which is crazy for being a head writer. He wasn't even involved in the last 5 episodes of the show. Now, I've talked enough about this. Let's just get into the second arc of Saber. Hey, remember how the Mega Generals were turning people into Megid? No? Well, that's because I didn't mention it in the last video. Toma and Mei's boss, Yuki, has been slowly turning into the Yeti Megid. The southern-based writers discuss the situation with Toma, and... oh boy. Yeah, this is where Ren starts to become, let's just say, unbearable to watch on screen. Reika gives them a new order to retrieve the Swords of Fire and Thunder, as well as every Wonder Eye book in Toma's possession. But, wait, wasn't that their order before? Oh, whatever. They keep trying to tell her that Toma would never use the Seconds for evil until they believe her? Why? Why have them blindly follow the Sword of Logos like this? The only one I can justify feeling this way is Rintaro, because he was raised by them, but at the same time, that can only go so far until it's stretched out to the point that it's just stupid. Why is Ren acting this way? Because he's an annoying little brat who always has to be so idiotic that it hurts my brain. Why are Daishin and Yonogami acting this way? Because I've seen Hayato and Kabujo betray them? Okay, well, the only thing they can compare between them is that Kabujo and Toma both use the Sword of Fire. Okay, that's one thing, but then you have to take into account that Hayato never once wielded the Sword of Fire, meaning that the Sword of Fire has nothing to do with the betrayal. Something that they could compare between Hayato and Kabujo is that they both were users of the Sword of Darkness. Toma has never once used the Sword of Darkness, nor does he have access to it. So, why are they acting this way? For dramatic effect. It's being dramatic for the sake of being dramatic. It's just like how I hate G-Ranger is dark for the sake of being dark. And I know I'm bringing up G-Ranger a lot with Saber, but that's just because it's the only other show I can think of that has the same problem Saber has. The characters get barely any develop outside of the 2 main ones. Getting new weapons in Mecha feels like they're literally just getting handed their new stuff because they were too lazy to actually think of a good reason for them to get it. Except, however, when they actually do make a good story for getting new weapons, but it's all ruined by the end when they almost lose them only to literally get handed them. I've already said a lot about this episode, and we're not even halfway through, so I guess I can applaud them for not making this episode entirely fighting. The Yeti Megid attacks the place where Toma and Yuri are. Toma attacks it, revealing to them that it's Yuki. They've been placing Alteride books into humans, and when the book inside is complete, they will forever be a Megid, unable to turn back. Yuri says the only way to save the world is to kill Yuki. Yuri tries to attack her, and Toma deflects the attack, making Toma an enemy to Yuri. Reika informs the southern-based swordsman that Toma has been fighting a Megid with the Sword of Light. Rintaro is happy to hear that Toma still has the same goal, but Rintaro and Daishinji figure they should go talk to Toma to figure out what's going on. Well, hopefully they'll at least hear him out with what he has to say, and they don't hear him out with what he has to say. The Yeti Maggot shows up again and Rintaro goes to fight it. Telling that it's a human, Toma deflects Rintaro's attack and Rintaro doesn't believe him. Oh my god, Rintaro, just listen to what Toma has to say for once. You know what, I should just be glad they aren't showing new toys in our face, with no explanation anymore. May helps Yuri come to a realization that saving the world is more important than just defeating the Megid. They have to save the people as well. Toma comes up with an idea of destroying the book right as it pops out when it's about to take over her body, saving her. And then Yuri says he could have just killed the Megid and been able to split them. So remember when I said that Saber doesn't have any filler? Well, what I should have said is that Saber doesn't have any taking a break from the story filler. Episodes 19 to 20 are, to me, filler, because episode 19 just sets up for episode 21, which does the exact same thing there, and episode 20 just strengthens my hate for Ren, so I'd rather not talk about it. So that means that next up, we're talking about episode 21. Oh, thank God, I can finally skip some episodes. Toma talks to a lot of people about loved ones disappearing after seeing the Wonder World. Storius makes the, how do you pronounce that? Charybdis. Okay, what's a Charybdis? Oh, it's in Greek mythology. Gosh, Greek mythology's got some weird spellings. Daishinji goes to fight Toma and talk to his sword. Oh, yeah, I didn't mention this before. Daishinji has the ability to talk to the swords, and he's doing this to ask if Toma is really fighting to obtain power, like Reika says. This is also to show how Toma has been relying more on his Wonder Eye books than his sword, showing that the better the form doesn't really mean the more powerful. This is something the writers probably should have known before giving him 3 new forms for the sake of selling toys. Toma finally taps with the true power of the Sword of Fire, defeating Daishinji and making him trust Toma, leaving the southern base. Yuri gets a new book from reading a comic. You know what, I'm just not going to rant about this because you've heard me rant about new books enough, and I just want to get to Forbidden Dragon so I can talk about something good for once. Charybdis Megid attacks, Psycho X Swordsman, Toma almost separates a human from the Megid. Wait, that last one might actually be important. Oh yeah, and the Charybdis Megid can revive itself. Oh, also the Charybdis Megid can become even more powerful when there are 2 identical people, being twins, to the point where even Yuri can't separate them, although Toma can. Okay, we're finally at episode 23. You ready for what is probably the 4 best episodes to ever come out of the show? The Northern Base group, now consisting of Toma, Mei, Yuri, and Daishinji, are discussing how Toma could split the human from the Megid. And this serves no purpose to the actual plot after this episode, outside of another filler episode, because this is where we stop using the humans turning into Megid subplot, and start killing off the Megid generals one by one. Yeah, you know how I haven't really mentioned the villains at all? That's because they made so many characters that they couldn't find time to develop the villains at all. This episode is the start of Toma and Legiel's so-called rivalry that was supposed to be going on through the entire series. So, what do we know about Legiel up to this point? He has a rivalry with Toma that starts literally 5 episodes before he dies, and he can play the organ. That's it. What do we know about Zeus? He has a rivalry with Rintaro that hasn't even been mentioned since it started in episode 7. That's the problem with putting in so many characters in a show like this. We're almost halfway through the entire show, and there are still so many characters who we only know the bare minimum of. Ogami, Ren, Daishinji, Legiel, Zeus, Storius, Reika, even Mei. All we know about her at this point is that she's Toma's editor, and she has possibly feelings for Rintaro. Now, a few of you are probably wondering, didn't you say this episode is going to be good? Well, yes, it is. Storius plans on getting a super powerful forbidden book that we've never heard of until now to complete his evil plan. Our heroes try to figure out a way to get to Master Logos, but being considered a traitor, Daishinji's book gate doesn't work to get to the southern base. Although I don't know why they can't just use the northern base to get to him. They go ask Daishinji for his, and he reluctantly gives it to them. Legiel and Zeus act as bait for the swordsman to come out so Storius can sneak in through their book gate. Toma and Daishinji enter the southern base while everyone is searching for Storius. So yeah, not really the best time to come in. Toma runs ahead and meets a sort of Logos member that's totally not Master Logos and says he'll take him to Master Logos. But instead, he takes him to standard warehouse set. Storius also shows up with the forbidden book. He tries reading it, but he can't handle the power of the book. Legiel also shows up because, remember, he has a rivalry with Toma that has been brought up countless times in the show. That will be very thought out and carry on throughout the entire show. The forbidden book ends up in Toma's hands. He opens it and it turns into the Forbidden Dragon book. Toma's body has been taken over by the Forbidden Dragon. He starts rampaging, defeating Legiel and Storius easily. Reika orders the southern base swordsman to obtain the forbidden book, even if it means killing Toma, which causes Ogami to ask if that's really what Master Logos said. He goes to pick up Sora, but Reika says that he should be ready to abandon his family at any moment. This naturally makes Ogami upset, and he walks off. And this is where Sora is literally the most big brain character in this entire show. Every problem with this arc will be fixed if Ogami just brought Sora to the southern base. Wait, now that I think about it, that might not have been a smart decision to bring him into the southern base. While Toma is looking for a clue about the Hooded Dragon book, Ogami runs to the bookstore to challenge Toma to a fight. This fight shows how much Toma has changed as a swordsman since his battle with Daishinji a few episodes ago. Instead of counting on his strongest form, he counts on the power of his sword itself. The battle ends with both Toma and Ogami being knocked out by each other's final attacks, making Ogami decide to side with him. While Rika watches them, she takes the Storm Eagle, Saya Journey, and Jack and Totem Momonoki One-Ride books with her own taken. Toma tells Yuri about something he remembered when he transformed into the Hooded Dragon. While he was unconscious, he saw a sad-looking boy. Rintaro is at the southern base, saying that he will fight with the Sword of Logos to the end. Okay, Rintaro, I loved your character until now, but this has gone on too far. Stop blindly following the Sword of Logos. I get that for a bit you wouldn't want to, but at this point, when two people have already moved away from it and the other one is on the fence, thankfully his character can only get better from here, but gosh dang it. This character arc for Rintaro really sucks. Fortunately though, his character gets way better. Leggio attacks the city with Toma and Yuri fighting against him, but even with the Printed Dragon book at the northern base, it flies to Toma and takes over his body once again, even making him attack Yuri. Printed Dragon also has the ability to take other Wonder-Eye books and use them, shown with him taking the Lion Zenki book. By the way, like a lot of things in this show, it's never used again. Printed Dragon almost attacks May until Kamen Caliber shows up in a portal and knocks Toma out of his transformation. Toma wakes up from a dream of him killing all his friends as Primitive Dragon, to seeing Luna telling him to help her? Oh, that was a dream too. Wait, I just thought of this. Does he sleep at his desk in the bookstore? Toma may return Rintaro's Wonder-Eye books to him after the previous day. Reiko shows up in the northern base and transforms into Kamen Sabla, the Swordsman of Smoke. Hey, have I mentioned how great Rintaro's actor is? He nails the scene here with May and plenty of other scenes. After Toma finally helps Rintaro realize what an idiot he's been, the three run back to the northern base after Sora tells them that Reika has attacked Ogami and Daishinji. With both of them unable to continue fighting, Toma is left with no other choice but to transform and eventually lose control. Rintaro gets ready to fight Toma when Caliber appears, knocks Toma out of his transformation, and is knocked and transformed himself, revealing himself to be Kento. So yes, Kento's back. Do I think this is a good idea? Well, yes, I do. I really like how they brought Kento back, considering he's supposed to be the tertiary rider, so obviously they were going to bring him back. Now, something I don't like about this is that I think I did this too early. Kento doesn't really get much to do until the next arc, because we're still getting through this one with a completely different story than what Kento is doing. So, in that case, why bring him back now? Well, because I need to set up his character arc with the Primitive Dragon and the upcoming Elemental Dragon, which appear in this arc. But a really easy solution to all of this is just make them appear in the next arc. I wouldn't mind them just focusing on Toma getting all his friends to trust him, and then bringing in Primitive Dragon and Kento in the next arc, considering that there was a certain plot point that I thought was literally just there to tie into the movie, which had been released digitally around that time. So, you thought Kento in the first arc was bad? Well, get ready for edgy teen Kento. Kento tells everyone that he needs to steal everyone's swords. Why? Well, because Kento's also been having these visions of Master Logos ending the world, and stealing all the seconds, because the Sword of Darkness can do that, is the only way to stop Master Logos' evil plan thingy-bobber, because the future can't change. Kento, the Time Rangers already proved you wrong on that one, and that was 20 years ago. Toma starts talking to Ogami about, oh hey, Primitive Dragon, forgot you were important to the story for a minute. Toma thinks if he stays the boy that he sees when he transforms, Primitive Dragon won't take over him anymore. Tasha goes to talk to Master Logos and gets banished to another dimension. Woohoo! Yay! No more tassel. Yuri goes to fight Kento only for Reika to show up, and it turns to a 1v1v1. Then Toma shows up and transforms into the Primitive Dragon, and Daishinji's taking his shield. Does that sound like a lot of stuff happening in those two sentences? Well, yeah, that's what happens when you have 3 subplots going on at the same time. So I know I sounded pretty negative about this episode, so why did I like it so much? Well, this is the best episode in the entire show, at least where I'm at now, in terms of everything but the story. The filming, the effects, the music, the scenery, everything here is blended perfectly, and it seems like they're finally using their budget properly. Sure, we don't have any insert themes yet, but this episode shows what they can really do without them. Honestly, if I wanted to get someone into Kamen Rider or Tokusatsu in general, I would show them this episode just because of how well it's made. It seems like a big budget movie, but it's only a 20-minute episode. Oh, yeah, and Taps is gone. Yeah, his really only role in the show was to pad out time because they couldn't film much. Then when his only purpose wasn't needed anymore, they just got rid of him. And now we drop the Kenta subplot for the rest of the arc to focus on another very developed subplot, Toma and Legiel's rivalry. Storius gives Legiel an even more powerful book, saying that there's no going back now. How can Storius do this? He can, because, hey look, new toy. We're once again at the northern base talking about the boy inside Primitive Dragon like it's the first time Toma spoke out loud about this, but this time he actually decides to do something about it. He locks himself in the training room to where he can't hurt anyone when transformed. Despite its efforts, though, Primitive Dragon is too much for Toma to handle, and he goes to help Ogami and Yuri fight the power of Legiel. He transforms and talks to the boy one more time, revealing that all Primitive Dragon needed is friendship. That's it? This dangerous book that they've locked away for centuries because of how dangerous it is only needed friendship. Okay, I've accepted plenty, and I mean plenty, of awful Deus Ex Machina excuses for an explanation for everything that's happened up to this point. But this is even worse than Deus Ex Machina, because they put effort into actually make the explanation, but only slightly. At that point, why not have an explanation at all? I know I've complained in the past about how things just happen for no explanation, and that would have been better here than friendship. Why even bother putting in an explanation if it's going to make no sense to the actual plot and contradicts parts of this subplot that were established at the very beginning? Why is this book so dangerous when all you needed to do to control it is to become friends with it? At least it's better than King Lion Daisuke at the very least. And with the control of Primitive Dragon, Toma gets a new book. What? How in the world would that cause Toma to gain a new book? Why can't Toma just use Primitive Dragon without going out of control? Oh right, he can do this because hey look, new toy. And with his new form of Elemental Dragon, he defeats Legiel once and for all. Wow, that was such a long-lasting rivalry. One to rival all-time greats such as Takaro and Juzo from Shinkenger. And if you couldn't tell, there was a lot of sarcasm in that sentence. The next episode is a Ren-focused episode, but thankfully I don't have to say a lot about it because it's mainly a clip show episode. So basically, Ren's sword gets sealed and he gets a taste of reality. The end. Rintaro finally decides to fight alongside Toma. Yay! But first he wants to get to the bottom of what's going on with the Sword of Logos. The others naturally want to go help him, but they have no way of getting to the southern base, now that Ogami's book gate has also been closed off. But Yuri is here to the rescue. Tassel made a trail of light to get to the southern base, and Yuri can take Toma with him and follow the trail. Rintaro follows Reika into a room where she is hiding Sophia, finding out the truth of where she went. He goes to tell Master Logos that Reika is a traitor, but he responds by calling Ryoga Shindai to attack him. But this isn't any ordinary swordsman. Ryoga is Reika's brother, and Kamen Rider Durandal, the Swordsman of Time, who has probably one of the best suits so far. Rintaro is losing only to be saved by Toma, who also kinda fails at winning. Toma and Rintaro almost make it out because of Yuri, but Toma suffers from a fatal hit from Ryoga as they use the book gate to get out of the northern base. But don't worry, Yuri can heal Toma. Why can he do this? He can, because hey look, new wait, no, that doesn't really work here. They mention that they don't have a defense because the northern base barrier isn't up without Sophia, only for her to return after being saved by Kento. The next two episodes don't really serve much purpose other than Rintaro being able to split humans from Megid, which is useless now because the writers got bored of using that plot point and giving Maetara shippers more of a reason to exist. So now let's move on to the next episode, which might be the best so far. Storius gives Zeus a more powerful book as well, so he can attack the northern base along with Reika and Ryoga. A lot of fighting later, the sacred book that they're protecting chooses Rintaro and turns into the Tatsugami Kyoju Senki Wonder Eye book. Now, this may be where you expect me to talk about how stupid this episode is because it's just a bunch of fighting, then bam, new form. But no, I actually really like this episode. It may not seem like it from what I actually talked about in this review, but Rintaro actually earned this power-up, in my opinion. He got beat up for 4 episodes at this point, so it's so satisfying seeing Rintaro get this new form after all he's been through. He's been lied to by the people who raised him, gotten beaten up countless times, and almost had one of the people closest to him killed. Yeah, I didn't bring that up because that was the Meitaro shipping episode. And with this new form, Rintaro defeats Zeus once and for all, ending a somewhat more developed rivalry. Somewhat. Oh, and Reika took Ogami Seiken. At the end of the episode, Storius takes what is, I'm guessing, an important book. And with that, we have finally finished the second arc of Kamen Saber. A bit shorter this time around because of a mix of this arc being a bit more tolerable this time, and me just not wanting to talk about Saber that much. If you couldn't tell, I haven't been enjoying the show that much, but I will say that this has been pretty decent. Also, there are no movies or specials this time around, so that makes it shorter. So, I'll see you guys next time for whatever I'm reviewing.